What is the church? The early Jews believed that God dwelled in a box which they called the tabernacle. They carried the box with them always. The box, of course, contained the stone tablets on which God had written the Ten Commandments. No one was to ever touch this sacred box. Once, a man did touch it by accident and was immediately struck dead. At another time, when the box was captured by the Philistines, the Jews felt it was the end for them because they had lost their God. Later, they built a tent to house this box. Still later, when Solomon built his famous temple in Jerusalem, the box or tabernacle was placed in the Holy of Holies. R.L. Bruckberger writes, quote, "In the deserts, God lived beneath a tent, in his tabernacle, and often during the night a column of fire stood above that tent among all the others, revealing to every eye that glory of his reassuring and terrible presence. When his people were settled in the promised land, God continued for a long time to be satisfied with a tent, close to the palace of the king and the houses of man. It was only with regret, as it seemed, that he left his tent for the magnificent temple that Solomon built." End quote. Ever since Solomon built the temple to house the tabernacle, people have had the impression that the church is a building. Yet when Solomon dedicated his temple, he said in his prayer of dedication, "But will God dwell indeed with man on the earth? Behold, heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain thee. How much less this house which I have built?" 2 Chronicles chapter 6, verse 18. How can God live in a building when even the whole universe is not big enough to contain him? Solomon knew that God cannot be boxed in a house, no matter how magnificent it is. God is everywhere, in the streets, in factories, in schools, on lonely roads, in rooming houses. He cannot be contained or limited to a temple or a church. The whole universe is his church. God does not need this building we call a church, but we do. We need places that are specially dedicated to God, where people meet together with the one purpose of praising God and seeking to know his will. Of course, we can worship God on the golf course, but we don't. We need a house of worship where everything, architecture, icons, music, vestments, chalices, sermon, incense, candles, conspire to help us worship by bringing God into focus. A woman called a church one day and asked, "Will the president be in your church tomorrow?" The answer she received was, "I don't know if the president will be here, but God will." Truly, God is always present in his church. He speaks through the scripture readings. He offers himself to us through the Eucharist. It is indeed his house. The ever-present danger, however, is that we will confine God to this house, imprison him there, and feel that the building is the only place where God is present, that it is his only house. It is not.